Second at 2:30, with all other provisions of the agreement remaining in effect.
Is there objection? Hearing none, without objection.
Now, Madam President, at the beginning here, I want to briefly address the deeply disturbing reports of a coup in Myanmar. We are monitoring this situation with great concern, and the Biden administration is already providing briefings to the Hill on the state of affairs. Congress stands ready to work collaboratively with the new administration to resolve the situation. I know this is a region of longstanding concern and interest to the Republican leader, so I hope that we can productively work together in a bipartisan fashion to determine the best course of action for America's interest and for the people of Myanmar. Next, this week, the Senate will continue to confirm President Biden's outstanding cabinet nominees. We had intended to finish the confirmation of Alejandro Mayorkas to serve as Secretary of Homeland Security today, but unfortunately, with winter storms hitting much of the East Coast, Mr. Mayorkas' confirmation will be delayed until tomorrow to accommodate members who are having difficulty getting here. We'll also vote tomorrow on the nomination of former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg to serve as our nation's next Secretary of Transportation. Mr. Buttigieg is an impressive public servant who has already earned the respect and confidence of both sides. He was reported out of the committee last week on an overwhelming bipartisan vote, and I look forward to confirming his nomination tomorrow. Now, as we process these nominations on the floor, our Senate committees are hard at work preparing the next slate of nominees, including Secretaries of Agriculture, Energy, Veterans Affairs, Commerce, Education, Labor, EPA, and more. We have a lot of work to do here, but the Senate is going to press forward on these nominations as quickly as possible. At the same time, the Senate this week will begin the important work of crafting legislation to rescue the American people and the American economy from the continued effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We continue to face a crisis unlike any other in our lifetimes. Over the course of a year, more than 26 million Americans contracted the virus, and nearly 450,000 have died, more than the number of Americans who died during World War II. Tens of millions of Americans have lost their jobs. Thousands of businesses closed their doors for good, and the economy suffered the worst year of growth again since World War II. Our efforts here in Congress over the past year have saved scores of small businesses, kept millions of Americans in their home and out of poverty, but our work is far from completed. As we speak, nearly 1 million Americans are filing for unemployment per week. More than 16 million Americans have reported being thousands of dollars behind on the rent, on mortgage, on utilities. Elderly Americans are having their heat shut off in the depths of winter. Families are having the power and internet shut off during their children's first year of virtual kindergarten. The small businesses we've done so much to help through the PPP and other bipartisan programs will struggle until we can vaccinate enough Americans to get the country back to normal. Facing these multifaceted challenges of a scale and scope larger than any event in the past 100 years, Congress must pursue a bold and robust course of action. It makes no sense to pinch pennies when so many Americans are struggling. The risk of doing too little is far greater than the risk of doing too much. Our history is full of warnings about the costs of small thinking during times of great challenge. President Hoover failed to react quickly enough to forestall a Great Depression. In the wake of our most recent financial crisis in 2009, Congress was too timid and constrained, and the ensuing recovery was long, slow, painful. Treasury Secretary Yellen, who watched the most recent recovery up close, just told us that, quote, "The smartest thing we can do is act big." Let me repeat that. The smartest thing we can do is act big, according to Treasury Secretary Yellen. So that is what the Senate is going to do. Act big. Today, Speaker Pelosi and I will file a joint budget resolution for the fiscal year 2021, totaling $1.9 trillion, which is the first step in giving Congress an additional legislative tool to quickly pass the COVID relief legislation. The resolution, if passed by both chambers of Congress, will provide instructions for the House and Senate committees to begin work on a potential budget reconciliation bill, which will be the vehicle for urgent and necessary COVID relief. Now, I want to be very clear. There is nothing in this process that will preclude it from being bipartisan. We welcome Republican input. Let me say that again. There is nothing in this process, the budget resolution or reconciliation, that precludes our work from being bipartisan. In fact, the Senate has used this process no fewer than 17 times to pass bipartisan legislation since 1980, including to create or expand landmark programs like children's health insurance, the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, which together have lifted millions of Americans out of poverty. COVID relief, too, should be the work of both Democrats and Republicans. Teachers and firefighters are being laid off in red states and blue states. American families are struggling with the rent and utilities in Kentucky, as well as in New York. We should all be eager to provide our country the resources it needs to finally beat this disease and return our country to normal. To that end, Democrats welcome the ideas and input of our Senate Republican colleagues. The only thing we cannot accept is a package that is too small or too narrow to pull our country out of this emergency. We cannot repeat the mistake of 2009. And we must act very soon to get this assistance to those so desperately in need. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.